Hello and welcome to this week's Sweet Upload. In this video, we'll be discussing key points to creaming method as it pertains to chocolate chip cookies. Creaming method is one of the basic mixing methods in baking and is arguably the most used when mixing cookies or cake. The procedure for creaming method can be thought of in three simple steps. First, cream together the soft fat and sugar until light and fluffy. Next, slowly add the eggs and flavors. Be sure to scrape often to allow liquid to be absorbed evenly. Finally, alternate the dry and wet ingredients. Note that there will be slight modifications with each product depending on the recipe. This is discussed in more detail in the mixing methods video linked here. Be sure to check out that video for much more in-depth discussion of the three fundamental mixing methods. Let's discuss some key points before our demonstration. When you see the words cream together in a recipe's instructions, a few things should automatically come to mind. Creaming always begins with creaming together fat and sugar. Creaming should be performed at slow speed using the paddle attachment. The amount of creaming of fat and sugar will depend on the product being made. Creaming for making cookies will be considerably less time than if you were making cake. Soft, solid fat should be used when creaming. The optimal temperature is about 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit or around 16 degrees Celsius. Solid forms of sugar in this recipe should be added with the fat in the beginning. This would include brown sugar. Remember, as with everything, slight modifications may be necessary depending on the product. Here is our recipe for chocolate chip cookies. It's also posted in the video description along with a link to download a printable PDF copy. For more baking recipes and tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll be bringing you more key points and demonstrations weekly. Let's take a look at our ingredients and make some cookies. Here we have butter, brown sugar, salt, eggs, vanilla extract, all-purpose flour, baking soda, and chocolate chips. We'll begin the process of creaming method by combining the soft butter, sugar, brown sugar, and salt into the mixer that has been equipped with the paddle attachment. Begin to cream the mixture on the lowest speed. After about 30 seconds or so, give the paddle and bowl a thorough scrape. Be sure to completely remove the paddle and scrape the bottom of the bowl to ensure the ingredients will be well incorporated. Be sure to be very thorough when scraping. Any fat that is not creamed with the sugar could likely cause problems during the baking process and could lead to flat or collapsed cookies. Take your time and focus completely on the task. It may seem dull or tedious, but it's absolutely vital to the success of your final product. Return the paddle to the mixer and continue to cream at slow speed. As the creaming continues, sift together the dry ingredients. In this recipe, it's simply the flour and the chemical leavener baking soda. Sifting the flour with the baking soda will allow for even distribution of the leavening agent. It will also aerate the flour to help prevent clumping. Next, quickly combine the egg and the vanilla extract. The eggs may be lightly stirred to break the yolks. This will allow the eggs to be added to the creamed butter and sugar mixture slowly, helping to create an emulsion of fat and liquid. Returning back to the creaming mixture, scrape as often as needed to be sure the fat and sugar are well combined. Once the mixture has a bit more fluffy consistency, we'll be ready to add the eggs. Take note that this should occur somewhere between 1 to 3 minutes for cookies. Cake batters will take considerably longer as more air needs to be incorporated into the creamed mixture. Also remember that creaming of fat and sugar assists with the spread of the cookie. While it's desirable to have some spread, over-creaming will lead to too much spread, usually resulting in inadvertently crisp cookies or completely burnt hot garbage. We're now ready to slowly add our eggs. Add a small amount at a time, allowing for the eggs to be absorbed by the cream mixture before adding more. Adding eggs too quickly to cream, fat, and sugar will likely curdle the mixture and prevent the fat from absorbing the liquid. Patience is key. When you notice there are portions of the cream mixture on the sides of the bowl that are no longer being mixed with the paddle, it's time to scrape the bowl. This is the same procedure as before. Remove the paddle and thoroughly scrape the paddle, sides, and bottom of the bowl. After scraping, continue mixing while slowly adding the remaining eggs. You guessed it, another scrape of the sides and bottom of the bowl just before adding the remaining ingredients. After the eggs have been thoroughly incorporated and the bowl and paddle have been scraped, add the sifted dry ingredients all at once with the mixer off. Pulse the mixer a few times slowly to ensure the flour doesn't explode out of the bowl and make a mess of your kitchen. Turn the mixer to its lowest setting, and just before the dry ingredients are almost hydrated, add your chocolate chips. Continue to mix for a few seconds until the chips are incorporated and all the dry ingredients are completely hydrated. This will happen rapidly. Any overmixing at this stage will develop more gluten, creating more structure in the cookie and in turn making your cookie harder than you desire. Remember, mix only to combine after adding dry ingredients. At this point, the cookies could technically be portioned, placed on a baking tray and baked. However, in a professional baking environment, it's more likely the dough will be refrigerated at least 1 day to help develop flavor and equalize the temperature of the dough. Baking immediately after mixing could present the challenging variable of dough temperature. With warmer dough, the fat will melt faster, likely increasing the spread and possibly making the cookie thinner and crispier than desired. You will have far more control and consistency during the baking process if the dough has been chilled. We'll now prepare the dough for storage under refrigeration for later use. This is what's known as blocking or blocking off the dough. It's simply wrapping the dough in a clean and tight block about 1/2 to 1 inch thick. This thickness will allow for faster thawing if frozen or allow the dough to soften faster for portioning later. It's always a good idea to double wrap the dough to ensure it remains airtight and prevent it from drying out. We're all set for refrigeration, neatly blocked off and properly labeled for storage. And yes, you should certainly label and date the food even in your home. Now that our dough has been thoroughly chilled, we're ready to portion and bake. We'll be using a number 40 or 3/4 ounce portion scoop today. It's a good idea to let the dough sit at room temperature for a short time so it's not too hard to scoop. Different doughs will be softer than others. This chocolate chip dough was at room temperature for about 15 minutes before scooping. There are many ways to scoop cookie dough evenly and efficiently. It's recommended you do what works best for you. Consistency and portioning is what's most important in home baking. For the professional, consistency as well as speed will be important. I'll show you my preferred method. Starting with chilled yet slightly softened dough, something that's firm but you could still squeeze. Grab a big handful of the dough and press the portion scoop through the dough firmly into your palm and ensure the scoop is completely filled with dough. Scrape the scoop towards yourself, creating a perfectly even portion. Next, press the ejector button. The dough will likely not completely eject from the scoop. Press it forward and flick the dough off your fingertips as seen here. Don't worry about where they land. We'll consolidate in space for baking after scooping. Over the years, I've determined this to be an effective way to scoop cookies, especially when you have a team of a few people. You can scoop thousands of cookies in a matter of minutes using this technique. The recipe in the video is likely a larger amount than what a typical home baker would use. It's recommended that if you're not going to bake all the cookies in one day, that you portion and freeze the cookie dough until needed. This way you always have dough on hand for fresh baked cookies whenever you want. After portioning has been completed, it's time to evenly space the dough on the sheet pan and bake. Remember, this cookie dough will spread somewhat, so you'll need to give them some space. For most drop cookies of this size, 24 cookies will fit on a standard size commercial American sheet pan and 12 on a half sheet pan. Today we'll be baking on a 3/4 size sheet pan which will fit 18 cookies. This is most likely the largest sheet pan that will fit in a home oven. Remember to check your oven's dimensions before buying new sheet pans. A gentle press of each cookie will assist with proper spread when baking. The cookies are now ready for the oven. We'll bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 to 14 minutes, rotating the pan about halfway through. It's been about 8 minutes and we'll rotate the pan in the oven, being sure to move quickly to not lose oven temperature. Rotating the pan is done to ensure cookies bake more evenly. We're now around the 14-minute mark and these cookies look done. Notice the even golden brown color with just a slightly darker bottom edge. They're ready to come out of the oven. Determining doneness will take some experience. After a brief cooling to allow for carryover baking, the cookies can be served slightly warm or cooled completely and stored in an airtight container. If storing, be sure to allow your cookies to completely cool, as any steam trapped in the container could make your cookies too soft and also adversely affect the shelf life. And there you have it, the key points to creaming method for making chocolate chip cookies. Thank you for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly baking and pastry tutorials. As always, be well, be safe, and I'll see you next week for another sweet upload.